Well, this coming Tuesday night, we've got four rearranged EFL Championship games, largely all rescheduled due to teams featuring in the FA Cup fourth round a few weekends ago. We've got four fixtures to get through, which we're going to preview and predict the score of. And as always, I'll encourage you to do exactly the same in the comments below. And if you beat or match my score, you'll get a shout out in the next recap, which will be on either Wednesday or Thursday, looking ahead to the weekend's fixtures. We've got a busy week to come. Huddersfield have a new manager. There'll be a manager special there tomorrow. We've got Premier League previews on Tuesday for Liverpool v Luton. But for now, before we move ahead to the four midweek fixtures, let's have a quick look back at what for me was a frustrating matchday 33. Because as you can see, I picked up 6 points, all for correct outcomes, just missed out on a perfect score. Sunderland threw it away against Birmingham, could have been 3 points there. There were a couple of big surprises. Watford scored a screamer in an otherwise uninspiring game. And most annoyingly, and the reason that 7 people overtook or matched me in stoppage time, was Huddersfield v Hull. It was 1-0 in the 91st minute. I thought I'd got myself 8 points on the board. And then the goals started flying in, 1 each for Hull and Huddersfield to make it 2-1 to the visitors. And 7 more of you now got a better score than me, which means it's going to be a long list of shout-outs for those of you this weekend. So 3 of you joined me on 6 points overall, Mitchell, Tim and Ojo. On 7 we have Simon, one of the regulars, Peter and Lewis, 2 more of them on 8. On 9 we've got 4 people, WNG, Isaac, Tio and Brian. Into double figures for the top 5, 10 points for Steve and Chris, 2 that normally do pretty well. In third place, new player Bobby with 11. And top of the tree, 2 people with 14 points. No catching you this weekend. 2 more regulars, Mello and Daniel. Well done to both of you. 14 points apiece. You are the joint winners of Matchday 33. But now we've got 4 games to get through on Tuesday night. And I'll try and make it quick before my voice disintegrates. We start with 2 teams who are desperately looking for some form. It is Cardiff City versus Blackburn Rovers. And for Blackburn, with John Eustace, certainly better defensively the last 2 games, but against Preston, after racing into a 2-goal lead, it all went very wrong just before half-time. Yes, it was a very different Blackburn performance, trying to stay in a more structured shape with the backs against the wall, and Preston dominated a game for a rare occasion, which we don't often get to say. But Blackburn did have the best chances on the counter, and when you're 2-0 up, you're very disappointed if you don't win a match. So John Eustace will be frustrated, but it is a crucial point, particularly given some of the results in the bottom 3 and just above it. And it also means that Blackburn avoid defeat against Preston in a game where they're usually pretty awful in the Lancashire derby. For Cardiff, a 4-1 defeat at Norwich, a pretty awful effort after going 1-0 up. They weren't very good defensively, which has been part of the hallmark of their season at times. Norwich were the better team from start to finish. They had bundles of chances. They deserved their win. And Cardiff have left themselves... Well, thankfully, they had a good start because on 40 points, they're now 8 clear. And you don't see where they're winning games at the moment. They nicked that 1-0 away at Watford with a moment of magic. Otherwise, that's been one of only 3 goals in their last 6 matches. In all of the others, bar that Watford win, they've now conceded, 14 in the other 5? I mean, it's not a good run. And Cardiff are starting to do what a lot of us expected at the start of the year. And they're really starting to drift down the table. So I'm a little bit worried for them. And if Blackburn win, of course, they can go above Cardiff. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. At the moment, we've seen John Eustace for all of his qualities. They've never been a great away side at Birmingham or here. And now I feel like with the way they defend and with the players they've got back there, they're just not able to keep clean sheets. So I'm going to sit on the fence to start off here. I'm going to go for Cardiff 1, Blackburn 1. And in the context of what other teams below are doing, I think both might be pretty happy with that, to be honest. Let's move on to the second game. I don't want to use the B word, but we're all thinking it. It's Ipswich Town versus Rotherham United. Ipswich starting to look like they might be back in top form again. A big win away from home at Swansea. So crucial that when Swansea got the equaliser, they went straight back up the other end and scored. And they just edged the game. They gave up the ball, but we've mentioned it before. On the road, they don't play quite as entertaining stuff. They don't always look to attack, but they did a really good job. And after a thrilling midweek performance at Millwall, 2 away wins in 3 days is a cracking effort. And given the fact that Southampton dropped points in the midweek, of course Leicester have dropped points at the weekend as well, maybe it's going to get interesting at the top. Who knows? For Rotherham, It's just not happening, is it? I think it's now at the stage of preparing for life in League One. We did question that with some of the changes in the January window, whether it was just to get a look at your own players ready for next year, but no threat of a goal. Okay, defensively against Watford, they had a decent shape, and if it wasn't for an absolute screamer, they would have got a 0-0 draw. They had the best chance of the game, actually had 19 shots, but it's a little bit misleading because a lot of those were either from distance or speculative efforts rather than clear-cut ones. But overall, a better performance. They probably deserved a draw, but in the end, they were defeated yet again, and that goal threat just isn't there for them. That's 2 scored in their last 6 matches. They're not the worst defensively now under Liam Richardson by any means. Those early season thrashings they were getting under previous management have dried up a little, but the goals just aren't there, and it is a real concern. For this game, look, we've seen stranger things happen in the Championship, but there is no doubt that you have to go for an Ipswich win. It was the safest prediction. It is a 99% chance. And if Rotherham pull one up, then fair play to them. It's not going to be enough. They're 14 points from safety. So I'm going to go for an Ipswich Town win, a pretty comfortable one. But I am going to give Rotherham a goal because Ipswich at times a little bit suspect in defence. They do make the odd mistake playing out. Especially at home, they do concede. So I'm going to go for Ipswich Town 3, Rotherham United 1. As we move on to the third game, which is another one of top end v bottom end, but this time the side near the bottom are at home. It's Plymouth Argyle versus West Bromwich Albion. Plymouth a 2-0 defeat against Leeds. They've had a pretty horrible run of fixtures really, haven't they? Leeds at home twice in the Cup and the League. Coventry at home and Sunderland away. But Ian Foster, he's got them playing decent stuff. They're doing okay going forward, but defensively, same old problems. They're just not quite good enough back there. Let's be fair, there's no shame in losing to Leeds, and they were a little bit better in terms of not giving up so many chances. Leeds only actually had the 2 on target they scored, but they did carve them open a couple of times. For Plymouth, one great opportunity missed, but otherwise, let's be honest, it was actually a pretty poor game. But Leeds got a comfortable win. Plymouth back to the drawing board, but their season isn't going to be defined by their last 4 fixtures, and it probably won't be defined by this one either. West Brom, a little unfortunate on Friday night because while Southampton were the better team, Fraser's finish was brilliant. Brooks scored a great team goal. Let's be fair, Jack Stevens made a wonderful save. They did have a couple of great chances of their own, and while we expected them to have a lot less possession, we expected them to play mainly on the counter. They did have a couple of good opportunities. John Swift with a couple of testers from distance, and they've got those players who can produce those moments of quality in the team. So for West Brom, again, not a devastating result, I don't think, but it will be a frustrating one when you consider some of the circumstances of it, particularly that shout for a penalty and a Jack Stevens handball. However, I'm going into this one, and there's something just screaming in my mind. It all adds up for a West Brom win or a draw at the very worst, but we know Plymouth are good and free scoring at home generally. I know a couple of games against the top sides recently haven't been that way. There's something screaming at me telling me Plymouth are going to win this game. Whether it's intuition, whether it's stupidity, whether it's just a hunch, I don't know. But despite everything my head is telling me, my heart is saying that Plymouth are going to nick this one. And a big performance is just going to drop out the sky. So, against my better judgment, all of the stats and what my head's telling me to do, I'm going to go for Plymouth Argyle to win this by 2-1. And it might be where most of you end up beating me this midweek. As we move on to the final game, featuring another side in the battle at the top, it is Southampton versus Hull City. Big wins for both of these teams. We talked about Southampton, who beat West Brom on Friday night. Yes, Jack Stevens, the skipper, did end up making quite a good save, but not penalised with a handball, but actually had a decent game at left-back other than that. Sekou Mara's starting to look a bit of a star after his recent FA Cup performances. But you've got the likes of Fraser, Armstrong, Smallbone, all in really decent form at the minute. And there's just so many options in the squad that are doing well. Even the likes of Aribo and David Brooks off the bench look fantastic. And Nadozie got the assist as well. So there's so much firepower going forward. There's so much quality. And Russell Martin has adapted his style a little, which is really important too. Got to give a shout out to Bazunu as well. Was a year too soon for him in the Premier League, but a couple of big saves on Friday night. And that helped them keep the lead at pivotal stages of the game early on. For Hull City, well, it wasn't easy, was it? Because after going in stoppage time 1-0 up at Huddersfield, they conceded to make it look like 2 points dropped in the 92nd minutes through Jack Rodoni. But then Jacob Greaves popped up with his brace just 2 minutes later to earn a big 3 points. You look at that table, it's got the classic feel of last season in the Championship, hasn't it? 5th to 9th separated by 3 points, 5th to 8th by 1. And Hull City, because of their goal difference, are the lowest of that. I actually thought Hull were pretty poor. They did have a couple of very good chances, but they were opened up a few times by Huddersfield. And on another day, the host might have taken a chance or two. They certainly came under a bit of pressure from set pieces, but then you have to say they defended them well and they took advantage with their attacking ones at the other end. So Hull City, an important win. It's the stage of the season where, quite frankly, it doesn't matter how you play. Back-to-back 2-1 away wins, a very good week in recovery after the Swansea City defeat. And it's 4 wins out of 5, all by the odd goal. Hull are doing what they need to do at the minute. For Southampton, great to bounce back after losing that long unbeaten run against Bristol City. This game is quite hard to predict because Hull's games have been very low scoring recently. Southampton have been goals galore. But this game, I think, is going to be a fairly ugly one. I think Hull will come and play for a draw, or maybe just try and hit on the odd counter-attack. Southampton will keep the ball, but are they going to be able to break down that low block? We've seen a couple of times at home they've struggled with that. I'm going to go for them to do it just, and I don't think Hull will have much of an attacking threat, but maybe they'll press and Southampton will take liberties at the back. You don't know, because occasionally they do get caught playing out. But I'm going to go stick my neck on the line with a low-scoring one to finish and go for a home win for Southampton to keep the pressure on the top 2 by 1-0 at home to Hull City. So with that out of the way, let's have a quick recap of what I've gone for these 4 rearranged games. I've gone for Cardiff to draw with Blackburn 1-1, Ipswich to beat Rotherham in a perceived home bank up by 3-1. My shock of the week is Plymouth to beat West Brom 2-1 to get themselves well clear of the relegation battle. And then I've got Southampton to finally win their game in hand to get back into the top 2 with a 1-0 win at home to Hull City. But those are just my predictions for this midweek. Do you agree or disagree with them? Let me know in the comments below. More importantly, give me your predictions for these 4 fixtures. If you beat or match my score, you'll get a shout out in the next recap when we return in midweek to look ahead to next weekend's fixtures. In the meantime, though, there's plenty more to come. If my voice recovers enough, we'll have a Huddersfield manager special tomorrow, an appointment I'm really interested by. We'll also have a Luton Premier League preview on Tuesday with predictions for the whole weekend there. But for now, if you did enjoy this one, please do put a thumbs up on it. Check out our sponsor HelloFresh UK in the description. There's 60% off and free delivery for your first box. You can find a link down below. It helps support the channel as well. You can also subscribe and turn the notification bell on to stay up to date with everything across the channel. But thank you for putting up with my croaky predictions. I'll see you back here next time, where hopefully the voice has recovered.